What's up, everybody? Week 13, Peter Schrager, Fox NFL cheat sheet. Let's get right to it. And number one, I want to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals because they are mythbusters this season. The myth going into this year's draft was that the offensive line was atrocious. Well, guess what? The Bengals offensive line is among the best in all of football. And when you pass on Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater with the 5th overall pick and take Jamar Chase and get Fs as draft grades, you better be confident in that offensive line, and the offensive line has been wonderful. From Riley Reif right down the list to Quinton Spain, these guys are blocking for Joe Burrow and they are creating holes for Joe Mixon. It is that punishing brand of football that is allowing the skill position players to have career years in Cincinnati. Myth number two, the Bengals, they're terrible in free agency. No one wants to play there. Guess what? They're great in free agency, and they've hit home runs with this crop of free agents that they brought in. They did not spend the money that the New England Patriots did, which was a record amount in the offseason. But what they did do was bring in guys who make differences. Trey Hendrickson has been fantastic. He had a strip sack in the win over the Steelers. Mike Hilton has been wonderful. He had a pick 6 in the win over the Steelers. Eli Apple, who has been discarded by teams in the NFL, shows up in Cincinnati, had a key interception in the game over the Steelers. You add in Chidobe Awuzie, you add in Von Bell, you go right down the list. All of the free agent additions that the Bengals brought in the offseason that did not make huge headlines have been delivering. The Bengals are for real, and the myths have been busted. Keep an eye on Cincinnati. Hooday. Number two, how about the other rookie receiver in this draft class? You know, we spent all of September talking about Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. Then over October and most of November, it was how good is Devontae Smith in Philadelphia? Well, Jalen Waddle might be the best of all three of those guys. They were all top 10 selections, and Waddle, who went 6th overall to the Dolphins right now, has 77 receptions. He's 5th in the league in catches. He's a rookie, and I'm not talking 5th in the league in catches amongst first-year wideouts or under 20. In the league, 77 catches. He is on pace to smash the record for receptions by a first-year player in the NFL, and he does it all for Miami. He returns punts, he takes the ball out of the backfield, he blocks, and of course, he has been Tua's #1 guy in the receiving game. The Dolphins have won 4 straight games, and in those games, Jalen Waddle has 29 catches and more than 300 receiving yards. He also has a ton of personality. He is not a big talker, but when he scored the touchdown Sunday in that blowout over the Panthers, he waddled. Get it? Jalen Waddle. Waddled like a penguin in the end zone. The Dolphins are red hot, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw them and Jalen Waddle playing January football in the playoffs, despite their start to the season that was forgettable. Number 3, the best unit you don't know is the Green Bay Packers offensive line. What they're doing right now is amazing. They've lost their starting center, Corey Linsley, who signed the biggest free agent contract signing ever by a center to the Chargers last March. Bakhtiari, their all-pro left tackle, has not played since last December. And then they lose Elgton Jenkins, who's an all-pro guard, and then they lose a center in Josh Myers, who's filling in for Linsley. And instead of getting in the dumps and becoming the worst unit in football, they've elevated their games, and they have been incredible. The names, they're not household ones. I don't think anyone's got a Josh Nijman jersey at home, but he's their left tackle right now. I'm not sure there are a lot of Billy Turner jerseys being bought for the holidays, but he's playing like an all-pro at right tackle. And then the big boys in the middle, including Big John Runyon Jr., are handling their business. What was amazing Sunday was watching Von Miller and Aaron Donald come in there like they're a bunch of Hall of Famers and then be silenced and done next to nothing against this offensive line. You have to give credit where credit is due, and Rodgers has been fantastic for Green Bay, and Devontae Adams is going to be a #1 wide receiver for as long as he wants to play. But that offensive line, a bunch of undrafted and late round picks, those guys are doing their thing. Packers offensive line, we see you. Number 4, the post-Von Miller era in Denver. You know, when the Broncos traded Von Miller, I think a lot of people saw them as kind of giving up the season, or looking towards next year, or just collecting draft picks so they can beef up for the future. They are 3-1 since the last time Von Miller suited up for the Broncos, and their defense, objectively, has gotten better. You know, rookies, Browning and Cooper look wonderful at linebacker. Kenny Young, who they got the week before they traded Von Miller, from the Rams has been outstanding, and Bradley Chubb is going to be healthy for the stretch run and is tremendous. You look at that back end, Surtain has 2 interceptions, those are the headlines, but look what Justin Simmons is doing at safety, and look at what this Broncos defense is doing to really good quarterbacks the past few weeks. They silenced Justin Herbert. They put him in a situation where it looked like he could not do anything for the Chargers in Mile High last week. Suddenly the Broncos are 6-5. They're 3-1 since the last time Von Miller suited up, and their defense looks as good as it's been in years. They're playing for Vic Fangio, and they're winning with a style of Denver defense that I think they hoped for the last few years under their defensive head coach. Broncos aren't going away, and this defense, I don't know why, how, or why, it's gotten better since Von left the building. Number 5, it's Deebo's world, and we're all just living in it. That's what it feels like watching Deebo Samuel every week for the 49ers. Now, he pulled his groin. He's going to be out for a couple weeks for the Niners, and they're going to miss him desperately. But what he's already done this season is the stuff for the history books. Consider this. Deebo Samuel, who scored 2 rushing touchdowns against the Vikings, is the first wide receiver in the Super Bowl era to ever rush for 2 touchdowns in a game. Consider this. Deebo Samuel, who has 5 rushing touchdowns this season already through 12 games, is the first wide receiver in NFL history to have 5 rushing touchdowns in an NFL season. And then the last one that I love is this. Deebo Samuel already has 1,000 receiving yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 5 receiving touchdowns. He's just the 3rd player in NFL history to do that. The other 2, Roger Craig and Marshall Faulk. Deebo, we hope you heal up because I really want to see what these records look like at the end of the season. They might be unbreakable. Deebo Samuel, I call him a unicorn, but truthfully, he's just a badass. Love watching him play, and I hope he gets healthy soon.